Hi and welcome. It's Jessica Drummond here from the Integrative Women's Health Institute. And today I want to talk to you about some very common mistakes that even women who are very aware of their health, who are, have been reading a lot on the internet, have been reading a lot of natural health books, have been reading all the books about healthy conception and pregnancy. These are three common mistakes that you might even have made, even if you're quite well informed. So let's jump right in so I can teach you a little something today. So, welcome. Let's talk about the particular mistakes that I see most commonly in my practice. And I've been working in women's health practice for nearly 2 decades. And the last 6 or 8 years, I've been working with women who are trying to conceive and are struggling with fertility issues or just simply want to have the healthiest possible pregnancy. So this applies whether you're struggling with your fertility or if you're just really focused on optimizing your pregnancy health. And for many women, that happens, the second pregnancy, the third pregnancy, because we need some time for our bodies to have recovered from the first pregnancy and need to kind of build back up to be able to have the healthiest possible second pregnancy. So one thing I want to talk about is this pre-pregnancy detox. Now, detoxing prior to pregnancy and certainly during pregnancy can be harmful if it's not done correctly. Also, we can't ignore the microbiota of the gut and the vaginal canal and also the penile microbiota, which is often overlooked. And what microbiota means is this community of organisms that actually lives primarily in our colon, in our large intestine. But we have microbiota, these groups of organisms who live in our vaginal canal, on our skin, in our mouths, on our partner's penis. There's a placental microbiome. So paying attention to these organisms is very important for immune health, for mother and baby, for preventing postpartum depression. So we really have to pay attention to this organisms that live within a community within us. Also, lots of women, ditch the birth control pill and try to get pregnant right away. But it's not well known that birth control pills make it difficult for you to absorb nutrients, even if you're eating a very healthy diet. And these nutrients are essential for fertility, for egg quality, and for pregnancy. Also, we really often skip over that our partner plays a big role. If we're worried about optimizing our egg quality and our egg health, let's give as much attention to optimizing sperm quality and sperm health and our partner's health and also just their energy. Because if we're adding a baby to the family, or adding a second or third or fourth baby to the family, we need our partners to be as healthy and energetic as we are. So let's have some fun. At the end of this webinar, I have a special invitation for you, so please stay tuned until the end. And please eliminate distractions. I know how it can be when you're listening to online workshops. You're kind of doing some other things at the same time, but do your best to close all the other windows, silence your cell phone notifications, and find a quiet spot so that we can focus today on what we are discussing. I want you to really optimize your preconception health and get as much out of this presentation as possible. So let me tell you a bit about me if we haven't met in person yet. I started my career as a physical therapist. I started off in sports medicine orthopedic practice and pretty quickly specialized in women's health. And I had a great career, but when I was quite young, I was in my early 30s, I had my first daughter and I experienced burnout, chronic pain, kind of constant nagging illnesses, anxiety and panic attacks, chronic fatigue. And it was all very vague though, and it didn't become disruptive until my first daughter was about 3 or 4 years old. And I was finally diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. And I was also struggling with infertility at that time. This is my second baby here in this picture. This is Kate. I think it was her second birthday. She is now 6. So, but it took, years. My 2 children are 7 years apart, not by design, but because I was so sick in the interim. So once I understood how essential it was to normalize and optimize my nutrition, and, I was never a terrible eater. I was never, a fast food junkie. I was never a sugar junkie, but I definitely did not have optimal nutrition, especially given the crazy busy working mom, traveling kind of lifestyle that I lived. And I realized that I needed to fuel that lifestyle in the same way that you would think about fueling an athlete. And I had been an athlete as a child and teenager. And really throughout my life, I've always exercised pretty intensely. But I had to relearn how to do that appropriately for my body as well. And I realized that these, really overhauling a more self-care, nourishing lifestyle from the standpoint of nutrition, of rest, of movement, that honestly made all the difference. I did not use reproductive technologies. Nutrition was the key to my fertility. So in 2011, Kate was born, and that same year, I founded the Integrative Women's Health Institute. And so my baby and my business were born. Now, let's talk about the first mistake that I see most commonly in my women's health practice. The first mistake is women do think about detoxifying before trying to conceive, but they do it in a way that's very incomplete. The goal here during this time frame, you want to think of the preconception phase as a 3-month time frame prior to trying to conceive. And the goal at this time is to reduce the overall toxic load in the mother-to-be's body to protect your fetus and reduce your risk of postpartum complications. Depression, anxiety, autoimmunity, and autoimmunity can be triggered in the postpartum period. It can flare up in the postpartum period. So if you've got Hashimoto's or vulvodynia or interstitial cystitis or psoriasis, eczema, anything like that can be triggered or exacerbated if you're not taking care of these conditions prior to conception and during pregnancy. So how not to detoxify in the preconception period. You do not want to be focused only on doing a juice fast, a water fast, or a master cleanse. We're not just juice detoxifying, because these strategies rev up the phase 1 of liver detoxification while doing nothing or very little to support phase 2. And we'll get into the details of that in a moment. The other thing that we want to not forget in this preconception period is your exposures matter. So you can be skin brushing and drinking green juice all day and lemon water and all of this stuff. But if you're, putting toxic laden skincare products, cosmetics, if you're drinking out of plastic water bottles, if you're eating fruits and vegetables that have been heavily sprayed with pesticides, if you live in an area with lots of air pollution and you don't have any plants in your home, if you're not filtering your water, you're just loading your body with toxins, and all the skin brushing and green juices in the world is going to make it more difficult for your body to process that intense toxic load. So we have to think about reducing the toxic load by also reducing exposures. Now, here's the most important reason that we do want to do a detoxification program in the preconception period. It's that xenobiotics, or environmental toxins, readily cross through the placenta and flow into the fetus. The developing fetus is exposed to the chemicals, persistent pollutants, and even those chemicals with a limited half-life that are in the mother's bloodstream. So we want to reduce this before pregnancy. And in our Preparing for Pregnancy program, which I will talk about at the end of this presentation, you'll have the opportunity to take a very detailed quiz to learn which environmental exposures are your personal problem areas. But if we look at this chart here, when they did this study of quite a few women who were pregnant and they looked across each participant, they were on, all of them, even though the ones that were exposed to less environmental toxins, we're exposed to quite a bit. Phthalates, pesticides, heavy metal toxicity, persistent organic pollutants. And these chemicals can stay in the body for some time. So we have to be focused on reducing the exposure. So getting a good water or air filter, and we talk a lot about this in the Preparing for Pregnancy program, which one depends on where you live and which environmental toxins are in your environment. Knowing which ingredients to avoid in your personal care and cleaning products. And getting a trusted list of good and healthy options so you don't have to walk around, with no skincare, with no cosmetics. You can't, you don't have to not clean your house at all, but there are much better choices available. And I talked about this a few moments ago. Why don't we just do a juice fast and not worry about what we're exposed to and, not worry about anything else? Just, spend 14 days or 21 days on a cleanse, right? Well, why don't we just do that? Let me tell you why. So this is a rather detailed schematic, but what it is showing you is this is your liver. And there are 2 phases to liver detoxification. Okay, this is the organ that gets rid of toxins, metabolizes everything from things that your body makes in normal, healthy amounts to excessive things that we are exposed to in the environment. Now, in phase 1 of liver detoxification, you need lots of vitamins and minerals. And you can get that from doing a juice fast. The problem is that when you convert certain toxins in phase 1 into their sort of intermediary metabolites, which means different chemicals that are then getting ready to be excreted completely, some of these intermediary metabolites are more toxic than the toxins themselves and can actually cause damage locally to the liver and in general if they are not excreted completely. So we also need to support phase 2 of liver detoxification. And to do so, we have to support this with protein and such. So in phase 1, juices are good. They help upregulate phase 1. Exercise upregulates phase 1. Just plain old drinking water or fasting upregulates phase 1. But for phase 2, so not just to get things kind of moving along the pathway, but to actually get these toxins fully excreted from your body, you need to be taking in protein and other phytonutrients which support the phase 2 process, and antioxidants so that these intermediaries are not damaging to the liver. So things like garlic, cruciferous vegetables, rosemary, ellagic acid, which is in raspberries, and so forth. So you see, the details are important. You must complete the full process of liver detoxification, which requires enzymes, protein, and the right supportive nutrient supplementation at the right time. And you see, the process doesn't end with the liver. We have to make sure that you're hydrated, that you're having a good quality Bristol 4 bowel movement. And there's a whole scale of bowel movements. Who knew, right? Bristol 4 bowel movements look like long, kind of firm but formed snakes, banana, that kind of consistency and a quite long bowel movement. That's what we're looking for. If you're constipated, you're not getting that. If you're having diarrhea, there are issues as well. Also sleeping. Every night, a good quality sleep between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. does 2 important things. Resets the stress response system and essentially is a self-cleaning cycle of the brain. So if you're struggling with brain fog, forgetfulness, word finding issues, and again, this can be common postpartum. So if you're still struggling with that from your first baby and trying to get pregnant with baby number 2, we need to look at your brain cleansing. So the bottom line here is that being supported with a very specific, detailed detoxification program is important, because simply doing a juice fast or even a water fast for a weekend or 14 days or whatever is not enough and could actually be more harmful than helpful. All right, let's talk about the second most common mistake that I see in my practice, and that's ignoring these healthy bacteria that are supposed to be helping us and supporting our health. And actually, sometimes when we're stressed, they take advantage of us. So we are their environment, per se. Having a healthy vaginal flora supports the transfer of sperm into the uterine cavity and creates a more supportive environment for implantation and optimal pregnancy outcome. So if you have used antibiotics prenatally or in the past, maybe you had tons of childhood ear infections or you get a sinus infection every year, you may have an imbalance in this bacterial environment that can very negatively affect your fertility. So, for example, when women who were undergoing in vitro fertilization procedures, when the essentially the tube that was used to transfer the embryo into the mother was colonized with a particular strain of lactobacillus bacteria, one of those helpful good gut bugs, those probiotics, that helped increase the success rate of IVF between almost 70 and 90%. And so if you were using antibiotics preventatively or, just in the past, your vaginal bacteria may not be as supportive of, getting pregnant, either a sperm transfer or an embryo transfer, depending on whatever we're transferring through that vaginal canal into the uterus. We need an environment there where bacteria can't thrive, the bad bacteria. What lactobacillus does is actually secrete hydrogen peroxide, which kills off bad bacteria and makes a more suitable environment for the sperm or the embryos, if you're doing an IVF procedure, to travel through that vaginal canal without essentially being, or not really attacked, but being overrun by unhealthy pathogenic bacteria. But if we don't have enough lactobacillus, or if our gut or vaginal microbiome is out of balance in any way, then that environment is not as optimal as it could be. So you need to be taking preconception probiotics of particular strains, which we get into. There are particular strains that are safest and most effective in the preconception, prenatal, and postpartum periods. And we talk about that a lot in our Preparing for Pregnancy program. All right, now, mistake number 3 is ignoring the micronutrient depletions, the vitamin and mineral depletions that can come from using birth control pills and other common drugs. The problem is when you're on birth control pills, especially for a long period of time, your nutrients have not been well absorbed, potentially for 10 or 15 years. I mean, how many women are put on the birth control pill at age 15 and you're not really trying to get pregnant until your early 30s? That's a long time, right? So one of the most important nutrients that is supportive for pregnancy and for the baby's brain and spinal cord development is folate or folic acid. It's difficult to absorb folic acid if you're on birth control pills. It's also difficult to absorb the other B vitamins that support the pathways that folic acid is active in, B2, B6, B12. Again, B2 is important for things like anxiety. B12 is important so that you're not struggling with certain kinds of anemia. All of these are important to reduce obesity risk and long-term diabetes risks in children, allergies and asthma. Vitamin C, vitamin E, these are antioxidants that minimize inflammation and influence the environment, again, for healthy sperm. We have to create this environment that is suitable for sperm to live in, just like why we took probiotics. These nutrients also improve the systemic environment in women with endometriosis, PCOS, and other inflammatory conditions that can reduce fertility and impact pregnancy rates. Also, magnesium, selenium, and zinc are not well absorbed in women who are on birth control pills. These minerals are essential for displacing heavy metal toxicity, to keep the uterus relaxed to prevent preterm labor, and protect the maternal thyroid, reducing the risk of postpartum thyroiditis. Remember, I talked about that postpartum period is a risk time for these autoimmune issues to flare. All right, I'm giving you a bonus one. I said there were only going to be 3 common mistakes, but this is one I had to add because, I see a lot of women, essentially almost all women in my practice. We cannot forget the male partners. It takes 2 to conceive a baby. And here's the 2 most common questions that I get from my women clients who are trying to conceive. Is it okay for my partner, my spouse, or my male partner to drink? And should he be on supplements? And when they say to drink, they mean to drink alcohol. Well, that depends. Too much alcohol can lead to deterioration of sperm quality. And I saw this just yesterday with a client of mine. Her husband's sperm morphology was okay, but, she's doing all this work, eating really healthily, taking her supplements, going to bed on time, and her husband's working really late and drinking beer every night. Well, his sperm morphology is not going to be optimal. And, the egg and the sperm are the foundation of every cell in your future child's body. So let's optimize that, right? Alcohol use is also associated with lower IVF birth rates and higher miscarriage rates. And should your partner be on supplements? Yes. Antioxidants and certain vitamins and minerals have been shown to improve sperm quality and testosterone levels, which are essential for supporting sperm quality and their ability to swim, basically. So let's talk through a case study. This was a client of mine. She's 34. She was 34 at the time, mother of a 4-year-old son. So she was dealing with secondary infertility. She had significant fatigue, chronic joint pain in her neck and hands, 1 miscarriage since the birth of her son. She was taking ibuprofen most days to control her joint pain. She was taking Cymbalta since she had moderate postpartum depression after her son's birth that hadn't really resolved yet. She was on a standard American diet, lots of sugar cravings, poor sleep quality, especially before her period. Spent a lot of time on her computer at night playing games or scrolling through Facebook when she was having bouts of depression and insomnia. And she was really frustrated when she came to me. I'm afraid that my body no longer works. I had no problem getting pregnant the first time, but now it feels so hard. So she decided that she wanted to try a natural approach to fertility before seeing the reproductive endocrinologist that her gynecologist had recommended. And I would say that you can use this approach. The Preparing for Pregnancy program works just as well for women who are trying to conceive naturally or women who are also being supported by assistive reproductive technologies. All of those are good options. There's no family history of infertility, but her mother had breast cancer 4 years ago that has now resolved, and her father is obese with high blood pressure. Her sister has no children but does struggle with moderate depression. She was born by C-section. She had chronic seasonal allergies as a child. She doesn't know if she was breastfed. She's had PMS since she started her period at age 13. She was on oral contraceptives from age 15 to 29 to regulate her periods and reduce menstrual cramping. She cooks 70% of her meals at home. She doesn't like fish, but she's not a picky eater. She was having 1 coffee a day, and she does not drink alcohol. She said she's never been a very good sleeper, but her sleep worsened after the birth of her son. And now when I have bouts of insomnia, now she reported bouts of insomnia, especially just before her period. And so when she can't sleep, she stays up late on her phone or, playing games on her computer. She enjoys being a stay-at-home mom, but, she often feels isolated, as many young mothers do. Her husband works long hours, but he's quite supportive, and her family does not live near her. She exercised by walking, essentially, and playing with her son at the park. Her digestion, she reported moderate constipation and moderate bloating after meals. So this is one of the assessment tools that we use to look at, how is this woman feeling in her life, in her body right now? Because what we're looking for prior to conception is how abundant is her resilience. Because when we're getting pregnant, don't forget, pregnancy is sort of a secondary level of health. We deal with survival first, physiologically, and then reproductive capacity, essentially. So we have to be thinking about how resilient is this woman in all different phases of her life. So if you consider her perspective, well, she was a little bit pessimistic that she was ever going to be able to have another baby. So she graded herself 4 out of 10. Connection, does she have a good support network? family structure, great friend group. Not really. She was feeling quite isolated, but she did have good support from her husband. So it wasn't down at a 1 or a 2. She marked it as a 4. Nourishment, she really had a poor diet, not very good hydration, not so much pleasure. She was sort of eating her kids' leftovers. They were grabbing takeout, not eating in a nourishing, enjoyable way. Strength. So physically, she was feeling weak, in pain, and fatigued most days, felt financially dependent on her husband. So when we look at women's strength, it's not just physical strength, it's financial strength. It's the strength of the resources, the community that they have around them, their emotional strength, their mental toughness. Contribution. She marked this as a 3 out of 10. She'd like to be more present with her family, but she often experiences brain fog. She misses working, but feels too tired to even consider part-time work. She does her best with her son and enjoys taking him to parks and museums when she can. Her attention, she graded as a 4 out of 10, worsening brain fog and still struggling with mild depression. Rest, she reported waking up tired and not sleeping well most nights, 3 out of 10. So what did we do? Well, we did our preconception cleanse, which is a key part of the Preparing for Pregnancy program, a seasonal, whole foods, anti-inflammatory diet, ditching the coffee, shifting to herbal teas, lemon water, spa waters, therapeutic yoga. She had to start moving her body. And we did this in the context of with a physical therapist who was also trained in yoga so that she could improve her joint pain as well. And stress management, breathing exercises. Stress hormones are connected to sex hormone stress, health. Estrogen and progesterone, which are important hormones for conception and pregnancy, can be significantly depleted by stress. This is one of the things that happened to me personally. And so really shifting my movement practice to be much less intense. And I was exercising intensely because I thought that would help me sleep, and it didn't. And I also was depleting my hormones. So, this is one of those things that sometimes we just get wrong. It's a mistake until we really understand the underlying physiology. Her circadian rhythm was messed up. Luckily, I never did this. I wasn't a big, game player or whatever on my phone. In fact, I was one of those late to the party, even cell phone owners, but she was really like playing games up on Facebook. She was distracting herself at night with her device. So we shifted that to more of a bedtime routine so we could realign her circadian rhythms, which is a key component to getting your hormones healthy. And a bi-monthly date night. She wasn't having a lot of fun, not much connection. So she did a babysitter exchange with a preschool friend's family. So when we looked at this again and kept working on all those domains, connection, she enrolled in a cooking class with another woman. She needed to start reaching out and making some friends. She hosted a dinner party with friends, cooking healthfully for her whole family. By the way, her husband, and this happens all the time, and my clients always get mad about it, but it's actually a good thing. He also took his supplements. We give you a male fertility program as a part of the Preparing for Pregnancy program because a lot of times the spouse or the partner will just eat the same way as the woman because she's cooking more often than not. But he added his supplementation. He was supporting his powerful sperm, and he lost 20 pounds over 3 months, which was actually more weight than she lost initially. Eventually, she caught up. Nutrition, she started eating primarily soaked and sprouted grains and beans with some organic poultry and fish. She actually learned to like some fish because of her cooking class. Lots of vegetables, low glycemic fruits, nuts and seeds, probiotic foods, digestive enzymes with each meal, bone broth at least 4 times a week to restore her minerals. And really, we focused a lot on her hydration, which improved her constipation significantly. She started a high-quality prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fatty acid supplement, antioxidants, and digestive support. In the Preparing for Pregnancy program, we list very specific supplement recommendations. After 6 months, she was able to increase her exercise to some, working in some more intense exercise, but, we kept balancing that with yoga and restorative yoga. And after 7 months, she had lost 25 pounds and was back down to a healthy BMI, which is important. We don't talk a lot about, how important it is to have a healthy weight in preconception, but we do go more into that in the program. So the result, a much improved relationship with her husband, a much happier, healthy daily life, more friends, more energy for her son, more presence, is sleeping through the night. Most nights, she still had a few nights of insomnia, but at least she wasn't up on her devices. She has 3 new friends. And, the data shows that just having 2 trusted, supportive friends can make all the difference in a person's health. It is huge. She enjoys yoga. She enjoys her classes at the Y. Her instructor is very supportive. After 9 months, she was pregnant with her second baby. Her first trimester, she had a lot of nausea, but she was still able to eat small amounts of whole foods. And we worked through that. In her second trimester, her nausea was much better. She had good energy and returned to her optimal nutrition plan. Her healthy baby was born full term. She completely eliminated her need for taking nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs because her joint pain went away, and she was able to reduce her dose of Cymbalta. So, in conclusion, there is no silver bullet approach to optimal fertility. If you're ready to optimize your preconception and pregnant health, we have a whole woman and whole family, whole couple approach to this program for you. And, this program is also suitable for women who are using assistive reproductive technologies to get pregnant on their own, because even if we're doing it on our own, we're not doing it in isolation. Remember how I talked about, just 2 supportive friends or family members makes all the difference. If you are a same-sex couple, again, super helpful to have your partner on board, optimizing his or her health, really supporting each other as you're going through the journey, because it's that support piece that is often left out of the nuts and bolts programs that are focused more on biochemistry, right? So we focus on nutrition, detoxification, hydration, digestive health, supplementation specifics, stress and hormones, which comes back to sleep and support, and healthy weight for pregnancy. So learn more. Our Preparing for Pregnancy program is a focus on fertility and preconception health. You don't have to be struggling with infertility. You might just want to optimize your health prior to getting pregnant for the first time, or you feel like your body needs to recover and get more resilient before getting pregnant for the second, third, or fourth time. So this program is 6 online modules that will be delivered right to your inbox. We'll support you in lowering your toxic load, detoxifying your home, personal care products and nutrition, nourishing yourself for fertility and pregnancy and your partner, digestive health so that all this great food that you're eating is actually being absorbed, also your partners, supplement specifics, and we focus quite a bit on quality resources for you and for your partner. So I believe there should be a male prenatal vitamin, and we talk about that in the program. And stress and pregnancy hormones. This program is practical. It has been tested by hundreds of clients at the Integrative Women's Health Institute with great results. It's step-by-step. It's a guided approach. There are a lot of delicious seasonal recipes. I've actually given you 4 complete seasonal cookbooks for each season, filled with simple recipes to support you and your family. We also discuss very specific supplement recommendations from the highest quality company. This company has gone through voluntary FDA inspection, no fillers. These supplements are pharmaceutical grade, exactly the nutrients that you need to support your and your partner's fertility, egg and sperm quality, and healthy pregnancy. Thank you for joining me today, and I invite you to join us in the Preparing for Pregnancy, Fertility, and Preconception Health program today. You'll see on the page below this video the complete details about this program. You can read below or click on the link, and you should see all of the details right there. If you have any questions, simply email my support team at support@integrativewomenshealthinstitute.com. Have a great day. Bye.